Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to watch another episode of Hello Again with me, Isabelle Broom. It's a very, very special week this week. Not only are we going to be discussing festive fiction, woohoo, Christmas is coming, but I've got three authors with me to talk about it with. I've got Phillipa Ashley, Sue Moorcroft, and Bella Osborne. Hello, ladies.
Hiya.
Hiya.
Thank you so much for being here. It's lovely to see your faces. I thought we'd start just by going around and each of you giving a little intro into who you are and your newest novel. So we'll start with you, Phillipa.
Obviously, my name's Phillipa, and I have got about 4 names over the past 15 years, and I've lost count, I've written about 20-something books. But I know. But really, most people know me for the past 11 or 12, which have been with Avon books, and they're feel-good, uplifting stories. Most have been set in Cornwall, but this year I have got a Christmas novel set in the Lake District. Now, there's something that's happened here. Yes, Isabelle has got my book, and I don't. Just before we came on, we worked out that Isabelle had received a review copy, but me, the author, we hadn't had ours yet. So I've seen my book for the first time live today.
It's beautiful. Look at
yeah,
the
and it really reflects the setting. That I had to send off some photos of the place in the Lake District that had inspired the book. The beautiful country estate on the shores of Derwentwater, and they actually sort of used it as inspiration for the cover. So that's what.
So beautiful, the lakes. I went last year first time, and I was blown away. It's just,
you can't take a bad picture in the Lake District. It's just breathtaking, and we've had a holiday home there for a long time, which sounds really grand. We let it out. So that my debut novel was set in the Lake District in 2006. So I'm back again after quite a long time for this sort of snowy, festive story about the community in the lakes.
amazing. How about you, Sue?
Hi, I'm Sue Moorcroft, and this is my book. Sorry, Phillipa, but I've got mine. And it's called Bluey Silvery Foil. This is Christmas Wishes, which comes out as a paperback on the 12th of November and an ebook on the 29th of October, also with Avon Books, who I've been with since 2016. And they're wonderful publishers. I was an army kid and lived abroad till I was 8 most of the time. So it took me a while to get used to British winters. We came back here in January 1970, which was an awful winter. My mum used to stand my school skirt up by the fire to thaw when she brought it in off the line. So I kind of do like snow, but I like to be really, really wrapped up. But for this book, I was really lucky enough to go to Sweden, because part of it's set in my village of Middleditch, which exists up here, and part of it's set in Stockholm and Småland. And it snowed while we were there. This was before travel was curtailed, and it snowed while we were there, and I had a really magical time. So hopefully I've fluenced the book, and that's all magical too.
Wow. I haven't been to Sweden yet. For me, who's quite well travelled, that's quite shocking. It's on the list, very high up the list.
It's very lovely. It really is. Really, I was surprised by Stockholm itself. You know, I did kind of know on an intellectual level that it's made up of 14 islands. But you don't think, well, that means sea everywhere and bridges everywhere, and there's trains here and cars there, and it's really exciting, I think.
Wow. Amazing. I can't wait to read it. Bella, tell us about your book.
Hello, yes, I'm Bella. I also write for Avon HarperCollins. I write romantic comedy drama, so rom-coms with a bit of an age, hopefully. And sorry, Phillipa, I've got a copy of mine. So mine's called Family Christmas. It's got lovely foil on it as well. She's very pretty, and it's out now in ebook, audio and paperback. Paperback currently available in Tesco, and it will be in Sainsbury's on the 26th of November as well. So
Fantastic.
all very tricky in the middle of a pandemic, trying to get them out and about, I'm afraid, but grab your copy while you can.
Yes, from all good e-tailers as well as retailers. We should
Absolutely.
And I was lucky enough to get an early read of that book, and it's wonderful.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Sue. That's lovely.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I've read it too, and it is absolutely gorgeous, and it should definitely be a drama show next Christmas. Well, a comedy drama. It's
Wouldn't that
just
be nice?
brilliant. Yeah.
Netflix.
That's the dream, isn't it? Just casually meeting people from Netflix at a party. That's my dream. That's why I go to parties.
Do they though? Do the Netflix people come to parties? Is anybody inviting them?
It's going to happen one day. Just keep wishing. Maybe I need to go to parties in LA, not parties in, Suffolk. Likely to happen. There are no parties at the moment, though, are there? Apart from Zoom parties.
No.
It will all come back. The HarperCollins party will.
Yes.
Be legendary, won't it?
Oh gosh, yes.
The joy.
Anyway, we're digressing. I wanted to ask you about how it feels to write festive fiction. Obviously, because publishing schedules being what they are, we have to deliver quite a long time before they're actually published, which means you're probably writing your Christmas books in spring and summer. Is that right? And how do you get yourself in the mood? Do you have like mince pie and mulled wine and Christmas songs on? We'll start with you, Sue, because I think Philippa's just having technical difficulties.
Oh dear. Well, because it takes kind of 6 months to plan and write a book, I'm always writing some of it at the correct time. And I take an enormous number, if I go on a research trip, I take an enormous number of photos and put them in a specific folder so I can always find them easily. So they're there for social media. Anybody following me at the moment, particularly on Instagram and Facebook, is probably getting a daily dose of Sweden as I'm resurrecting last year's photos. So I always have them to look at. I don't do mince pies or wine, I have to say. But what I do is if we get a snowfall, for instance, or if there's a hoarfrost or something, is I'll write down a few impressions and then return to it when I need to. But generally speaking, it's all down to my imagination, because my background's in short stories for magazines. At the time when I did a lot of that, we always were writing Christmas stories in June and summer stories in Christmas. So I've always been used to being able to just imagine myself somewhere else.
Amazing. I'm the same, actually. I know what you mean. I do the research trips for the travel novels, and then I have to kind of try and remember what it was like to be stood there. I do a lot of video recordings as well, actually, on my phone.
Yeah.
And so I can remember what it sounds like. But it's things like smells and things like that, isn't it? That you just have to deeply... I mean, what smells do people associate with Christmas? It's always cinnamon, isn't it? People talk about cinnamon as being a big thing.
Yeah. Roast dinner.
Yeah.
I was going to say stuffing. I don't know what that says about me.
I think in the lakes, the log fires, although you can have wood fires, you probably need wood fires there, even in the middle of summer, but there's a lot of the tang of wood smoke in the air, that sort of thing, and the snow on the tops, quite a lot of the time. So, yeah, definitely wood smoke.
In Christmas markets, you have all the street food.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And glühwein and whatever. So, yeah, I'm all up for that. Go from one stall to the other, sampling everything.
Yeah.
How do you get in the Christmas festive mood, Bella, when you're writing?
Well, I did slightly shock my husband because I had a large glass of iced coffee on my desk, and he thought I'd got a very large glass of Baileys at about 9 in the morning. No, it's not quite that bad at the moment. So I didn't resort to the Baileys. No, I wrote my Christmas book sort of a couple of years ago. So we didn't have a slot in 2019 for it, so it's had to wait to 2020, which obviously is a great year to bring out two books in the middle of a pandemic. So when I started it, I think I started it with Nano, or maybe slightly earlier. So it probably did do some when it was warmer, but what I did was I waited, and last Christmas I edited it. So I had a good look through it and did some editing while I was in the middle of Christmas, so I could add in those little extra things and make sure it was extra festive.
Oh, that was lucky, and a good idea as well. It's quite nice having time on a schedule to write the book and then have a real break and a think and then go back to the edit later. I mean, I don't know about you, but it goes to my editor and then I feel like I take a breath and then it's back again.
Yeah.
Like 10 pages of notes, like, here is everything you've got to change. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, I don't usually do 2 books a year. This is unusual for me. I usually only do 1 book a year. I'm just a complete slacker, basically.
No, well, compared to some people. Philippa, I'm looking at you as well.
No, I only do 2.
2 a year.
I only do 2, yeah. I have done 2.5 to 3 in the past, and I have written books and had a part-time job, but I don't know how I did it. So, especially this year, because my brain's not been functioning on the speed it ought to have done at times. So
yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I was going to ask you all about actually about how you found, how you fit in 2 books a year, how you kind of motivate yourselves on the days, because 2 books a year is a lot of work for those. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's a hell of a undertaking. How do you kind of push through those tricky days where you don't really feel like the words are flowing? And what advice would you give to anyone watching who is experiencing those same sorts of problems, a bit of a block? Philippa?
Well, I wouldn't have had a time really when I felt I was blocked until this year. I started the Christmas book that you see now in January, which was fine because it was still just post-Christmas. It was, the first week of January and you're still feeling it and the decorations are up. And that was okay and it was fine until what started to happen. Yeah. And I was still writing it during the very worst of it. And it was a struggle like I've never had with a book. I mean, Bella will know I'd be sending them notes every day. And I lost complete sense of perspective. The words didn't flow in like a river like they normally did. I thought everything I did, every idea, word was rubbish. And I really drove everybody mad saying, this is not like my other books. People will hate it. Well, guess what? They have loved the book and said it's full of emotion and it's full of, I obviously poured all that emotion into the book and everyone thinks it's fine, but I promise you at the time I was hating it and found it. But I now realise I think that was just anxiety and stress. I think, is it not Danielle Steele, who was interviewed recently in Paris saying she'd found it incredibly hard to write. But I just had to get on with it because I'd got a deadline and other people were in a far worse job. So I just thought, get on with it, get up, get on with it. But it was hard.
It has been tricky. I haven't actually spoken to any authors that haven't struggled actually this year, and for me it's been just my concentration has been zapped. So
that's it. I
sit and think about nothing but the book and really allow myself to disappear into the pages. I found it that it's like a goldfish. I'm like, I do 2 sentences and then I'm like, just can't get in the zone. Yeah. It's exactly weird. Yeah, I think it must be just this sort of perpetual feeling of anxiety, isn't it, that you might at any moment life could change again and you don't really know where you are.
I managed to whiz through the summer book I'm just finishing at the moment. That was begun when things were getting much better and we were in a much better place and we were out and about and that just whizzed through. But that's sort of it's running out of steam a bit as things are a bit tricky again. But I don't know what advice I'd give that just your book, that you think what you're writing doesn't matter, doesn't have value, and it really will, and you won't know that till you're in a different place. It's very hard.
Yeah. What do you do, Sue? Do you have any sort of fail-safe tips for getting yourself out of a bit of a
Well, I would first like to volunteer to be the author who did carry on writing quite happily. Writing's my escape. So
well done, you.
You know, bereavement, whatever, I go straight to my writing, and pretend whatever it is kind of isn't happening. So I didn't, for me, experience that, not being able to write. I think, you know, an empty bank account is a good motivator, a deadline is a good motivator. And also all the people you inconvenience, sorry to say this, Isabelle, because I think you may off air have mentioned a deadline whooshing by, but all the other people you're inconveniencing, and I've been inconvenienced, you know, when my editor said, I can't stick to the schedule I agreed with you. And as you say, 2 books a year, I depend on the schedule.
Yeah.
I can't stick to that because another author is late getting theirs in. And I think, well, I ought to get a house point or a cookie or something then, because
look, there you go.
Yeah,
that my own wrist on behalf of us all.
But more seriously, you know, some days writing turns to treacle for me, just like everybody else. And so I do something else, but it's writing. So I might go elsewhere in the book and write a scene and then go back to the bit I was struggling with, or I'll get all my to-do list up straight. And I hate doing my to-do list so much that then going back to the book is very attractive. But basically, it's just like Phillipa says, I get up in the morning and I work. 2 books a year takes 50 or 60 hours a week for me.
Yeah.
And that's how I do it. I work hard.
Perhaps it is that momentum that's keeping you going, because I think it's probably the stop starting actually that you know is one of the reasons people struggle a lot with it. If you're only dipping in for an hour a day and that hour keeps getting moved back by other things, then you lose the thread of the actual story. It's the same with reading. If you read 2 pages of a book every day, it's going to take you a lot longer, and you're not going to get as much out of the read as you would if you read 2 chapters a day, for example.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I did manage 5 days in Norfolk with a friend who has a holiday home there in September, and the book was due in, my summer book was due in at the end of September. And so I didn't want to drop out of the story completely. So I took my laptop and I just allowed myself an hour and a half every morning before I got up, was I worked on the book so that I stayed in the story. And I think that was really valuable, because otherwise when I got home, my memory would have been wiped and I'd have lost a day getting back in the book. So all kinds of working smart tips like that people tell me, I try it.
What about you, Bella? How do you beat the treacle?
Well, I'm just going to sort my blind out, because whilst I look much better in soft focus, so you can probably get see me.
I was going to say, you look like you're in some sort of winter misty mood there.
A halo.
You've definitely got some sunshine there, though.
I know. It's gorgeous, isn't it?
Flickering like
There we go.
We can see you again.
You can see me again. Sorry if you were enjoying the soft focus. I'm sure I looked a lot better. No, so I'm a complete slacker and I only do 1 book a year, although that leaves me time to do secret projects, which is quite nice. So I do write more than 1 book, but I'm not on contract to write more than 1 book. So that's a nice position to be in, really. And I'm the same as Sue. It's my escape. So when it was all really kicking off, I just went to my lovely little world, which was lovely because it was COVID-free and the people were nice, and it was a really nice place to be. So that worked really well for me to just escape into the writing. And then it's when you come out, you've got the problem.
Yeah.
True, actually, isn't it? That's really true. I should do it more. I find that the problems seep into my writing space.
Yeah.
I do go away though when I tend to go away on book camps a couple of times a year with other writers, and that's really good for me, because you don't faff around when you're in a room full of other authors that are all writing. You just get on and do it, and it also reminds you how lucky you are to be doing the best job in the world.
Yes.
So that's really important. Yeah.
I kind of felt when things were bad, even though I was having to struggle writing, I felt I got, don't want to sound sanctimonious, a duty to get on with the book and kind of cheer people up in any way I could, and, you know, make a little contribution to them escaping. So I carried on.
It'll be nice to say, won't it, when we look back in years to come and It'll be like, well, what did you do during the pandemic? And we can all say we wrote a novel.
Yeah.
I feel very, very happy with ourselves about it.
I think people's reactions to the kind of books we all write at the moment and make it all worthwhile. I'm sure you're all seeing the reviews and the comments on Twitter and all your social media, and you think, I am so lucky to be able to make someone feel better for a couple of hours, you know, to say they escaped, you know, and they had a better day. I mean, what other, you know, there's not many jobs you can do that you can really feel like that.
Would you say that's one of your sort of favourite parts of the process, is getting that feedback? And I was going to ask you all actually what it is about writing that you love so much. Is it the kind of coming up with a cast of characters? Is it all the plotting and laying out, or is it more just the writing, or is it, you know, when it gets to the stage when it's being read? Is there anything particular that you love? We'll start with you, Philippa, as we're...
I was thinking about this before, and I think I like all of it really. I love the research and getting the idea. I mean, I don't plan a lot. Bella will laugh, but I claim I don't plan at all. But that isn't strictly true, really. I find the writing itself, I really enjoy it. But then, you know, there comes a point where you've been doing that 2,000 words a day maybe, and you do get quite tired. But all of it, the whole thing about being an author. I mean, I've written books for a long time, but it's only the ones with Avon really that have been really successful. And I just thank my lucky stars every day that I kept on writing all these years and got into this position. So the whole thing, I just feel really lucky.
Oh, I love that. How about you, Sue?
Yeah, well, very similar, really. I feel compelled to write rather than, you know, inspired. People say, what's your inspiration? I don't know. I have this thing that I call my plotty head. And it's just part of my subconscious that comes in and starts making a story of something. It can be a comment on Facebook. And it used to get me in awful trouble when I was a kid, because I used to tell elaborate lies. I talked about it recently. I told this elaborate lie about the school bus when we lived in Malta, and Dad went and gave someone a rollicking, and it was all a lie, and and so then I got a rollicking in turn, because he was in the army, and this was an army bus and a civilian driver, so it went like a rat sandwich. So my head just does this. And one of the huge benefits of it is I'll be thinking about something else, and it will suddenly give me an idea or a plot point, or it will give me the answer to a problem. And I had the book that I'm editing is next summer's book. I'm planning next winter's book, editing next summer's book, and promoting this winter's book. Yeah. And that's the reality of 2 books a year, I find. I had no ending. Well, I did have an ending for this book, but it turned out to be based on a fallacy. And so when I realized it was a fallacy, I had no ending to the book. And I went away on this little holiday, and I was coming back. I had 11 days to finish the book and get it in. And I was telling my friend about this. I said, well, I've got no ending now. It's all gone wrong. And she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to wait for my plotty head to give me the answer. And there was a bit of a silence. She said, does it do that? And I said, well, it usually does it before this. It's cutting it very fine. But it cut in, I got the answer, and I've just had my edits, and my editor actually said, I love the endings. Oh, good.
Oh, yes. Thank God for the plotty head.
Yeah.
It is those moments of magic, isn't it, where things, like you say, when things fall into place, or you just think, yes, that's it, and you like race to the nearest pen and paper, so you have to write it down really quickly.
Yeah.
If it goes again, you're like,
That's great. That is the best.
Yeah. And actually with characters as well, I find sometimes when I'm writing dialogue, or if I have a chapter planned, so I know, I'm like, okay, they're going to go here, and this has got to happen, and this is the point of this chapter, and this is how it's going to end. And then you have them have a conversation or something in the midst of that, and they just come out with something that you weren't expecting, which moves the book on in a way that you weren't expecting. It's really hard to explain to people, isn't it? but they just naturally happens. And I love those moments because it makes it feel like you're hanging out with real friends and this is real lives at stake. And, you know, and that's when I'm fully invested. I love that.
Yeah, in the zone.
Yeah. And I kind of know that it's come from me, but I don't feel like I can take credit for it because I feel like it's come from the characters, which is so weird. What about you, Bella? What's your favourite thing about writing?
Well, I love all of it, apart from the editing. I hate editing. That's just not my thing. It's, I love that that spark when an idea appears, which unfortunately usually happens when I'm about 3/4 of a way through a book and working on a deadline, and then a new one appears. I'm like, oh, shiny idea. It's very difficult to concentrate back on what I'm meant to be doing. But you can barely see me now. I look like some sort of ghost.
No, it's like you're in dry eyes. I'm reminded of the nightclubs I used to go to in the 90s. You try and find your friends when you've been to the toilet and you'd be going through this. Where's Bella?
There's probably slightly more dust in here. It'll be worse after next month. I'm doing nano again, but don't worry, it's fine. So no, I do. I really enjoy it, and I same as Sue. I don't. People say, "Oh, why did you choose to be a writer?" I don't think I chose to be. I've just always done it. I can't not write. It's because I think if you don't get those characters and things out of your head, you probably would go slightly bonkers. I'm sure in a different century we would have all been certified.
Probably, yeah.
But it is a type of madness, but thankfully we can put it to good use. And as Philippa says, hopefully other people get enjoyment out of our madness, which is really nice.
Whenever I have a bad day or a sort of a bad set of structural edit notes that I think I can't cope with, I just have a word with myself and I'm like, Broom, you make up stories for a living. That is your job. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Just, pull yourself together and get some perspective, basically. It never fails, does it? It's like, no, that's your job, and that's just ludicrous, really.
I think I tweeted something last week saying I'd had that moment of, you look off the tightrope and think, I'm making this up. There must be another way. Somebody else must do this in a more professional way. and I just tweeted saying, I've just made this up. It is ridiculous that this is my job. And I don't know what I thought before I was a novelist. I don't know what. I think I thought people had some sort of spiritual divine, the book was in them, they were a genius anyway, and so that was just that rare being. But no, ordinary people do it.
Yeah.
And it's mostly just hard work and practice, like most things.
I don't think we're just authors, are we? We're sort of teachers, we're poets, we're therapists sometimes, we're friends, we're travel guides. Yeah. There's a lot involved in a novel, and the more you put in, the more reader will get out. I think that's definitely true.
Yeah,
it certainly seems to be the way anyway.
When I was teaching creative writing, I had a student who wrote to me and confessed, and she told me that I could speak about this, so I'm not telling tales out of school, but she confessed that when she was a child, she used to have people who lived in her head and spoke to her, and they became more real to her than real life, and her mother took her to a psychologist. And I said, did she not know you were a writer? And that's how I live my life. Muttering to myself and making notes on my phone as I'm walking around the park, and I actually once told one of my children off for interrupting. Nobody's speaking. We just couldn't hear them, that's all.
No, it's like that. It's completely like that. It's very strange. I often dream about my characters when I'm writing a book. Like, I dream that I'm in the book with them and they're real people sometimes. And I also dream hooks and top lines that I forget when I wake up, which is really I find that kind of thing quite difficult. I'm trying to get better at it. It's something I've sat down and gone, right, you need to spend time doing this and learning what it is, because it does make all the difference, I think. Being able to sort of sum up a book in a line on Twitter or on a cover, or I think there's a lot more pressure on authors to sort of have that ready when they submit a book now. show us how to sell this kind of thing. I mean, we're lucky we're all quite established now. But
Yeah.
I always feel for debuts, it's difficult for them. They've got to not only write a great book, but they've also got to say, this is how you can sell it, by the way.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park meets Love Actually, or whatever it might be.
Oh, I want to read that.
Yeah. Maybe I should write that.
The T-Rex.
I think there's a part of the internet where that kind of thing exists already, but that's not what we're talking about.
Tell us more,
Dinosaur
Philippa.
romance.
Oh, I don't know. I watched Jurassic Park recently. I think it was the most recent one, where they were auctioning off all the dinosaurs, and there's this awful scene where they leave the island and there's this poor dinosaurs all stood on the edge, you know, and the volcano's coming, and I was crying, and I was like, I'm crying at some CGI, what's wrong with me?
I find that film terrifying. We went to an orchestra, a performance with a live orchestra, so you watch the film and an orchestra played, and we took my 85-year-old father-in-law. I don't think he quite knew, he wasn't quite as entranced as we were, but I'm still terrified. What a film. Imagine writing that with that level of suspense in a book.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just brilliant, isn't it? Bam, bam, bam. You care about the cliffhangers. You're gripped.
yeah,
It's a masterpiece.
it is. Do you all read a lot of different genres? Like, what's your sort of favoured books to read? Like, what are you all reading at the moment?
I'm reading a Formula One book.
Oh,
I'm reading Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert's new book. I love Formula One, so every winter there tends to be 2 or 3 new Formula One books. So I'm reading that. I like a lot of romantic suspense, and pretty much the same sort of stuff as I write. I read Bella's and Philippa's books. I like Jules Waite, Julie Kaplan. She writes as well, and a lot of American romantic suspense authors, and a few autobiographies.
that's an eclectic mix. I like it. How about you, ladies? Philippa, what are you reading at the moment?
During the lockdown, I've discovered Ellie Griffith's books and become quite a friend of Ellie's. Well, a stalker, that's a joke. They're just the Ruth Galloway books. They're absolutely gripping, and there's romance. There's a really strong romantic element in them, which I won't spoil for anyone. And they just terrified and gripped me, which is a bit silly when there was a pandemic going on, but I somehow found that soothing. So I've been reading that sort of crime. I read romance sort of books, Sue writes, and Bella, and also I read a lot of books about landscape, because I'm like, settings are important in my books, so I like reading. I've got a book called Tiny Islands, about little islands, worlds, that appeals to me. Little small worlds, they really appeal to me. So yeah, I'll read, and I read the paper and get ideas from the paper, like we all do, you know. Magazines, Sunday magazine supplements, I think they have a lot of really dramatic personal stories in, and I've had ideas for books from there. I'm sure we're all constantly on the radars tuned to that sort of thing.
Definitely, yeah. I love it when my friends, I like meet with my friends, and I'm like, so tell me some stories of what you've been up to. Tell me about your disastrous love lives. Just get a pen and paper out ready.
Yeah.
What are you
Some
reading?
sort of disclaimer at the beginning, shouldn't we, of any conversation? This may be used in a future story.
Should just have a pin badge. What are you reading at the moment? Don't go anywhere, Bella. I've just realised that
I think I've got one behind.
Hang on.
I think
Very
I'm leaving
Mickey.
the broadcast.
There's Mickey.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right, so I just need to let my admin assistant in. I knew she'd do this. She's playing up this morning. Come on.
There she is.
There she is. She's a monster. Matty, come on, say hello. Wow. This is my admin assistant.
This is the first episode of Hello Again with a cat.
This is Lily.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah,
Hello, Lily.
Hi, Lily.
I said tummy tickled. She does like a Zoom call as well. She's usually here for most of them. Ooh, there we go. Like something for us or something.
What's a tale?
It's really helpful. So, What was the question? Yes. So at the moment I'm reading The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. So I'm really enjoying that. And I joined a book club a few years ago, and that's really good. That gets me to write things that aren't in my genre. So that's really helpful as well. You can't see the cat now, but she's now right in front of me, knocking things over on my desk. Really good.
I can see an ear.
Yeah, she'll appear in a second. So I get to read different genres that I wouldn't usually, and that's been really good because I was pretty stuck in the rom-com genre, because I still love a rom-com. I love obviously The Ladies Here, You Can't Beat a Sue Moorcroft or Phillipa Ashley, but I also love Jill Mansell, who's my absolute idol, and Katie Ford and Carol Matthews, all of those. I do get excited when their books are out, and I want to be first in the queue, really.
Yes. What am I reading at the moment? I did just read an Ellie Griffiths recently, actually. My first one. I read The Stranger Diaries. When I was
That's a one-off, isn't it, Isabel? That's not a Ruth Galloway.
Yeah,
They're slightly different. The Ruth Galloways are much darker and scarier.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. I've also just finished the Thursday Murder Club, because you have to, don't you, see all the fuss about it. It's very good.
Yeah.
If you haven't already read it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's on my Christmas list.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it'll be on everybody's, won't it? Although it's hard to believe anyone that hasn't bought it. The numbers are just. Ooh.
Yeah, I bought it for my father-in-law.
Oh.
You were saying about putting people in books. I'm sure a lot of you have got this. Can you read this? My dad bought it me, and what you were saying, Isabel and Sue and Bella. Yeah, it's true. I'm afraid it's true. We're not joking.
That is true.
Right, we've just about got time to do one. We'll do a draw from the hat. We'll do one each, so we will get to answer a different one. Well,
Very small hat.
Different one. Okay. Who wants to go first?
Go on then. Love it, we all rush.
Okay. Oh, okay. Bella, do you have any writing rituals? As in, do you have to be sitting in a certain place? Do you need a scented candle? Do you have piles of Post-its?
I need supplies. That's very important. I always have biscuits to hand. These are my current, not sponsored at all, but these are my current favourites. I do love a custard cream. That's a good staple, and I do go through various different biscuits. At the moment, this is my biscuit of choice. They are always just to hand in case I need them. I think that's very important. Post-it notes. I have been called by some lovely readers the Queen of Post-it notes. I love that. I would like a badge made with that. And I do have them in virtually every size and every colour.
Wow.
So I love a Post-it note. And I'm a big plotter and a planner. So that's, I guess that's my ritual, is I plan my novel out and then I work to that. And I use these for anything really, because they're great.
Do you mostly write at home in the office, or do you move around different places?
No, generally at home in the office. We've got a garden room, so I sometimes go out there as well for a bit of a change of scenery, which is nice. But I'm not really sort of a cafe writer or that. And I've done a couple of retreats, and I'm kind of getting used to it now. But the first one I went on, I was quite surprised, because whilst it was really lovely and I love being catered to, I think my brain was, "You're in Devon, you're on holiday," because everyone else is working, and I'm like, "Oh, this doesn't feel quite right." So it took me a while to kind of get the fact that actually I'm meant to be working, not on holiday. And so I think I'm probably best when I'm just at my desk. But yeah, who doesn't love a writing retreat?
I like the idea of working in a cafe, but then I've got the world's smallest bladder, so I can do about 1,000 words, and I'm like, well, now I've got to pack up all my stuff and go, because I need the toilet. Yeah. Right, okay, question two. Let's go with you, Sue. I'll dig one out right from the bottom. Oh, this is a tough one. People hate this question, so I'm sorry. Favourite book character of all time, and why?
Actually, that's not too hard. It's a character called Joe Harmon, and he was my very first book boyfriend. He is the hero in A Town Like Alice by Neville Shute, which was my very first adult book. I watched I know I was younger than 10 because of where I was living. I was living in London, and I watched the film with my dad, and he said, "I've got the book of that in the bookcase in the hall," and I went and got it out and read it. and that was my very first. It was a beginning of my love affair with Neville Shute as well, and it's just such an amazing book. And if ever anybody was a hero, it's Joe Harmon, because he was literally crucified for his love.
That is quite, oh.
Quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, no wonder it's
so
stayed
he
with you.
was a prisoner of war, and he stole these chickens to feed these women prisoners, and because he wouldn't admit to it and say where the chickens had gone and get the women into trouble, he was crucified on a tree and flogged. And then he didn't die, so the commandant, he was Japanese, so whatever the equivalent is in Japanese, came and said to him in the morning, well, as you haven't died, I feel that you ought to get something you want. What do you want? Thinking he'd say to be cut down. He said, I want one of your effing chickens.
Amazing. That is some sass. Sassy man.
Amazing book.
I don't know where I'd even begin. I've got so many favourite characters. A lot of them are in Julie Cooper, it must be said.
Oh yeah, Rupert Campbell Black, yes.
Yeah, Rupert Campbell Black is he's up there, isn't he?
Definitely.
Evil but amazing. Right, Philippa, it's your turn. Oh, first book that you can remember reading as a child.
First book?
Yeah. I remember reading to yourself rather than it being read.
Well, this is the one that really sticks in my mind, and I could have only been about 6 or 7. My auntie bought me they were just like cheap leatherette classics back then, and they were the sort of thing they thought that young children would have. I think there was Pride and Prejudice and goodness knows what else, Treasure Island. But the one I remember was Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Mystery and Terror. Totally unsuitable. Really, if you've ever read them, they're terrifying, really, really horrible horror stories. And my mum wouldn't know, I'd just be reading them, and I remember them all, and they stuck in my mind. It's the sort of thing I would go a long way not to read now. And after having found out what kind of person Edgar Allan Poe was at university, I really shouldn't have been reading them, but I read them all. The Rue Morgue, The Telltale Heart.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's I must have read things before that, but that's the one kind of that stuck in my mind. Don't worry, I read loads. I read loads. I used to read Enid Blyton and all. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, that stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
I kind of went straight on. I don't think there was loads of young adult books. I don't remember. I remember getting hold of Alistair MacLean and that sort of thing when I got to about 11 or 12. But yeah, I'm afraid it was Edgar Allan Poe, and I've still got it. I've still got it upstairs.
At least he didn't put you off.
No, I mean, how weird to remember that. Yeah.
I love it.
Don't recommend it as a child's book, frankly.
No, I had a book that was all about Vesuvius, and it was a picture book of just all these people running screaming from lumps of lava, and it scared me so much that I couldn't sleep with that book in the room. And it was a children's book. It was one of those Osborne, sort of history of Italy. Oh my god, it terrified me. It still terrifies me. The idea of it now.
Some of the old Ladybird classics were quite horrific. Someone posted on Facebook, I think it was, Dr. Fell, the poem, the nursery rhyme, Dr. Fell, a really dubious and horrible picture. And then things, I'm older than you, but, some of those little Ladybird books, they were terrifying. We've moved on, I'm glad to say.
Yeah. Although I haven't read that many.
Fairy tales as well.
Yeah. Very dark.
I had books.
Gruesome.
They were really scary.
Yeah.
You just don't think about it when you're a child, though, do you? It just kind of, I suppose a lot of it washes over you.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of going, oh, la-di-da, singing along to these really macabre rhymes, and hilarious. We're running out of time, but I think we should finish just by you giving us a little rundown of your books, just so that people finish this chat by having that in their minds.
Shall I go first this time then?
Yes.
I've got to show everyone my T-shirt. I've got my Christmas
Look
video
at
on my
that.
T-shirt.
So you're putting us all to shame.
So,
my
yeah,
books are
so
not about me to-
Christmas Wishes is set between the UK and Sweden. It's a what happens next book, really. Hannah gets her shop in Stockholm. She's cheated out of it and swindled by her ex, or at least he has a good go. And Nico has to look after 2 children and his eating disorder. And so he downshifts to the village to try and get his head on straight. And it's what happens next is the book.
Amazing, amazing. Philippa, I'm going to hold yours up while you talk about it.
Right, thank you. A surprise Christmas wedding is about a surprise Christmas wedding in the Lake District. The premise of it is that Lottie, the main character, she ends up organising the last wedding she'd ever want to organise, and that's the one from her ex, who kind of managed to propose to her and break it off within the space of 3 days. Anyway, that happens, and then he resurfaces sometime later when she's the events organizer at this beautiful Lake District estate, and she's got a whole load of other problems to deal with as well, but that's the premise of the story.
Amazing.
That's great.
And Bella?
So, One Family Christmas. Mine's also got a Lottie in it, different Lottie to Philippa's character. And my Lottie wants to have one last family Christmas at her Nana's manor house. And she manages to persuade her reluctant relatives to come along if she promises to do everything for them. There's only really 2 problems with that. One is that she can't cook. And secondly, everybody in the family is harbouring a secret, even the cat. And in amongst all of that, her first love, Joe, turns up after 9 years and just barrels into her life with a little stray dog. And that's pretty much the start of Christmas with the Collins family.
Amazing.
Set in the Cotswolds as well, in my made-up village in the Cotswolds.
What more could you want? It's festive stories, beautiful locations, amazing characters, cats, dogs, Sweden. It just sounds amazing. They all sound amazing. And you're all amazing too. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me. I hate that we run out of time. I always say I could keep talking for all day, which, you know, we can keep talking all day, but we're going to stop recording now. So say goodbye to everybody watching, and thank you for watching and stopping by. And come back next week.
Thanks
for
for
more.
inviting me as well.